50,000 years in the making. Australia has been built on heroes and heart, trailblazers, rebels, and the brave. This time, revolution sweeps the suburbs and the beaches. The baby boomers transform Australia. And far beyond its shores, Australia forges new frontiers. Its inventions, its resolve,
It's all right, sweetheart.
its charm.
That's a knife.
This is the story of Australia.
Oh, here's a story about a boy and a girl. Oh, she's as pretty as the diamonds and pearls. Come on, baby, you make me crazy. I 1, 2, 3, call me back for more.
November 21, 1956. Brisbane, Queensland's first official rock and roll festival. Desmond Duke, builder's labourer, larrikin, mad keen dancer. He's a bodgie, a rock and roll fan. The girls call themselves Widgies. They dress like their idols, American rock and roll stars. They see themselves as rebels. Anyone over the age of 30 sees them as a threat to decent society.
With rock and roll, the underlying message is to let go, to be free, to rebel. And that's what it did for a lot of these young people who, I guess, felt quite suppressed at that time.
The police attend to make sure the kids follow every rule, no matter how bizarre. Dancing's okay, as long as you do it sitting down. But dancing in the aisles is against the law.
The whole point of rock and roll is to move, you know, to shake your body. It's a visceral experience. The thumping drum beat is really the core of rock and roll.
Des isn't looking for trouble, but when the band fires him up, he just can't help himself. No one is prepared for what happens next, and it's all a result of the Second World War. 14 years earlier, July 1942, American General Douglas MacArthur establishes his headquarters in Brisbane. The US is a crucial ally to Australia, but thousands of American troops bring another fight to Australian shores: the battle for women's attention. The GIs stand out from the local blokes. Slick hair, sharp uniforms, aftershave. No wonder they have more luck with the ladies.
America really became a massive influence. At that stage, Australia was absolutely obsessed about the import, be it the imported car, be it imported clothes, being imported music.
After the war, American pop culture floods Australia. Films, magazines, music. Soon, some locals begin copying the Americans. Rock and roll haircuts, zoot suits, even faking the accent. Someone calls them bodgies, Aussie slang for poor imitation. But their love of the new music is genuine and deep. In Brisbane, Des answers the call of the rock and roll beat.
Rock and roll is about rebellion, you know, really. As soon as somebody kicked up against the system and did whatever they want, and everybody went, yes, I want a piece of that. I want a piece of that freedom.
This is our night. You cops won't stop us.
Son, back in your seat. Back in your seat. No, don't. No, out. Don't stop. You, son, back in your seat.
It's a revolution fueled by music, adrenaline, and a new sense of power. Australia has never seen anything like it. With the entire theatre illegally on its feet.
Right, kids, out this way.
Someone sets a seat alight.
Senior, get him out.
And the audience becomes a mob. Their parents grew up in the Depression, survived the Second World War. They can't believe what they're seeing. These kids have only known peace and prosperity. cracks down on bodgers, trying to save civilised society from the threat of rock and roll. But it's too late. The genie is out of the bottle. Soon, Des and his friends are turning to homegrown rock and roll stars, like Johnny O'Keefe.
When people like my Uncle John, Johnny O'Keefe, came along, or, your Cole Joys or Lonnie Lees, to see that we could not only participate in this revolution, but lead the revolution as well, I think was something quite incendiary for Australian youth.
A revolution sparked in part by Desmond Duke. He's charged with assault, resisting arrest, and destroying police property. 2 policemen's hats. Within a year, fueled by rock and roll, the record trade explodes to £1 million a month. Australian rock and roll is away and running. Aussie acts will rise up the charts around the world for decades to come. The Easy Beats, the Bee Gees, AC/DC, Men at Work, In Excess. Today, Australians spend $1.5 billion a year on music, much of it homegrown. Des's baby boomer generation will be the largest and richest in Australia's history. And all their lives, they will continue to turn the country upside down.
Sugar pie, honey pie, sugar pie, yeah.
In the 1950s, Australians surfed straight, long, unturnable boards on strictly controlled beaches. Yet within 2 generations, Australians will reinvent and dominate world surfing. Create a $5 billion surfing industry and transform the way Australians live on the vast coast of their continent. May 17, 1964, Manly Beach, Sydney. The first ever official World Surfing Championship is the spark for Australia's beach revolution. Midget Farrelly, 19, in the final, underdog. The Americans are the favourites. This is Midget's chance to show the world what he can do and help change Australia's beaches forever.
Midget's story is so unbelievable because as a young kid, he sort of wagged school and got away from that and he just fell in love with surfing. And not only did he fall in love with surfing, he wanted to do it his own way. That's what's so special about it, and that's what's so Australian about his story.
Since World War II, the nation's beaches become a battleground in a war between 2 radically different visions of Australia.
This pageant brings us a parade of virile manhood, the march past of the surf lifesavers.
The dominant force on Australian beaches is the Surf Life Saving Club.
Sturdy young men who devote their leisure hours to the splendid task of making the beaches safe.
In the 50s, clubbies draw on mateships forged in war. They're a generation committed to service, saving lives. They enforce strict rules and regulations. Surfboards must be registered and up to 5 metres long. They're so big, surfers have to store them at the surf clubs. Surfing is under clubby control.
It was very regimented, it was very militant, it was very structured, and they tended to put the flags up where the best waves were. And so for Midget to stand up against the club scene was rebellious.
The longboards are impossible to turn. Surfers aim to get all the way to the beach without getting their hair wet. But in 1956, a new kind of board and way of life explode onto Australian beaches. The US lifeguard team comes to Manly to demonstrate much shorter, lightweight boards. They do something no one here has seen before. Turn and ride across the waves. Within days, locals like Midget Farrelly make their own boards and start carving up Australian waves. By today's standards, they're still long, but in 1956, they're nothing short of radical. Surf club bosses aren't impressed. The boards aren't suitable for saving lives. Many clubs ban them. It's the start of a split between young surfers and old guard clubbies that never fully heals. 1962, Hawaii. Far away from Aussie surf lifesavers flags, Sydney boy Midget devotes himself to mastering his art. He rides his homemade board against the best Americans on the legendary waves of surfing's birthplace.
There was a rivalry already between Australians and Americans. You know, they sit on either side of the Pacific, and this is a Pacific invention, if you like, board riding, wave riding. So Australia is starting to vie with the Americans as a surfing nation.
The kid from down under takes on US champ Mike Doyle.
Midge dashes along the beach in an effort to gain assistance from the strong rip. Contestants can catch as many waves as possible in the time allowed.
Against the odds, and to everyone's surprise, Midget wins. It's the first time an outsider takes Hawaii's biggest surfing prize. At home, surfers turn their backs on the clubby-controlled beaches close to town. They head out along the coast to discover surfing hotspots like Bells Beach, Byron Bay, Winkipop and Margaret River. They begin to transform beachside living all around the continent. Surfing booms in popularity. It's no longer just a sport, but a new way of life, expressing an old ideal, freedom.
I guess it really was about exploration. You know, suddenly you had something which wasn't so cumbersome and heavy, and you know, like you didn't need a massive all drive or whatever you could throw a shortboard in your car and head down the coast and look for your secret spot.
Australians listened to surfy bands like the Beach Boys. Closer to home, the Deltones, the Atlantics, and Little Patty burst onto the sea. Midget's Hawaiian victory helps attract 65,000 to Manly for the first World Surfing Champs. But the smart money is still on the Americans. Australia's and the world's best compete over 2 days. In the men's final, Midget once again faces Mike Doyle. He has 50 minutes to impress the judges and show Australia what surfing can be. Midget ignores his opponents. He focuses on the waves and dances on his board as never before. His final cutback blows everyone away. The judges love it too. Midget wins.
A lot of surfers allow their surfing to do their talking for them, and that's really what Midget did, especially in 1964 when he won his first world title. You know, he went to America, beat the Americans at their own game, and then decided to bring it back to Australia and have a legitimate win in the first World Championships.
From the 60s on, boards get shorter. The surf they ride gets bigger. Midget and shortboards change surfing in Australia and around the world. In the next 50 years, 19 Australians will be crowned world surf champions. more than any other country. Australian surfing entrepreneurs create global brands and a multi-billion-dollar industry. Surfing even changes the way Australians speak. Boardies, rad, grommet, gnarly. Australians find new ways to live on their continent. And they're about to change the face of Australia itself. April 4, 1975, Saigon, Vietnam. The city is under attack.
All right, listen.
A Royal Australian Air Force plane attempts to escape.
It's time to get out of here. Let's get started on that.
Its crew and volunteers are part of one of the most ambitious rescues in modern history. The evacuation of thousands of orphan babies from the Vietnam War. Melbourne mother Elaine Moyer, former secretary, now aid worker, the driving Australian force behind Operation Baby Lift. It's a desperate race against time. Many of the babies are dehydrated, sick, some are close to death. And that's not all. An American evacuation plane crashes soon after takeoff. They suspect a missile or a bomb and fear the Australian plane may be next. Elaine's determined to get the children to safety. It's the last days of the Vietnam War, Australia's most controversial foreign battlefield.
It seemed to be a war that never got anywhere. It always just stayed in the same place. Australians at home got fed up with it.
To make matters worse, Australia is on the losing side. Saigon is about to fall. The city's many orphans are at risk, despite the difficulties of removing thousands of babies from a battlefield. Australia and America commit to Operation Baby Lift. Earlier in the day, at one of Saigon's largest orphanages, Elaine must choose which babies will become Australians or Americans.
How are we going to get all these kids out, we said? Well, we're going to have to divide up the babies.
She decides the sickest will go on the shorter flight to Australia. For the other places on the Aussie plane, they draw lots. The North Vietnamese army closes on Saigon. The city panics. Elaine is one of a small group of Australians left in Vietnam. Now she's on her way to the airport with a busload of babies. A desperate mother approaches with her child. Before she reaches the airport, Elaine takes 5 more babies from mums who believe they will not survive when the city is taken.
Well, this is an incomprehensible desperation for a mother to be saying, take my baby to another country and I may never see it again. And it makes me feel really grateful that I've lived in Australia, where I haven't had to ever face anything like that.
For the North Vietnamese, Saigon Airport is a key objective. Just as Elaine and the babies arrive, the US plane falls from the sky.
We were at the airport filming an Australian RAAF Hercules leaving for Australia, also loaded with orphans. We just turned around and there was this massive pall of black, thick smoke. The Galaxy had come down shortly after takeoff.
78 orphans die in the crash. Also killed, Elaine's friend, Australian aid worker, Margaret Moses.
Look, at any point in war, there will be losses. From a personal perspective, you know, I understand how hard it is for people to be able to block that out and remove emotion. What is more critical is that you keep everybody else alive and get the job done.
Keep moving them up, one more room. Come on. That's it. Come on, bring it up.
The crash creates confusion. No one yet knows the cause.
Come on.
But Elaine and the other Australians prepare to leave. Some babies have been waiting for hours. If the sickest orphans don't get to hospital quickly, they will die. Takeoff will be the most dangerous moment. The adults on board know the giant lumbering Hercules is an easy target. They suspect enemy insurgents are already inside the airport. It takes 15 agonizing minutes. But the Australian plane climbs clear of danger from the battlefield below. War, loss, and want are behind the orphans. Safety, a new home, and opportunities now lie before them. The Hercules touches down with its precious cargo. All the babies survive the flight. Operation Baby Lift rescues more than 3,000 infants. 260 are adopted and raised in Australia. They are now parents to children of their own.
The rescuing of those Vietnamese children and also the welcoming of the many Vietnamese refugees to this country, and what it reminds us of is we are capable of compassion as a nation.
I'm really proud that Australia chose to look after those Vietnamese children. My mother actually taught a lot of those children at Arthur Phillip High School where she worked, and I still remember Mum coming home really proud at some of the Vietnamese boat kids that had come into the school with no English and went on to do the HSC, went on to achieve staggering results, went on to university, went on to have careers.
Elaine will spend the next 20 years helping Vietnamese Australians. They're part of a new wave of migrants who come to Australia from all over the world. Today, 1 in 4 Australians is born overseas. Their children are more likely to marry outside their ethnic background and to be better educated and more prosperous than anywhere else on earth. As the world comes to Australia, ad man John Singleton helps change the Australian voice from uptight English
Mortine is the safest, surest way to kill filthy disease-carrying flies.
to Ocker Aussie.
You caught me in the middle of all my cleaning.
May 1974, Sydney.
Over 10 million packets of aeroplane pure fruit jellies are sold.
TV's been in Australian homes for 18 years. But the voices heard on the airwaves are mostly British or American. Even the ads.
Well, it seems like flying at the summit. We're just enjoying their evening buffet there.
Australianness and being an Australian emerged very early, but it took a hell of a long time to get onto the little box and to be represented via the media. Singo facilitated that.
John Singleton, Singo, Adman, Larrikin. Unlike most of his competitors, he engages Australians with distinctive ochre ads.
Oh, Dave! Get on with this, Mabel. One for every day of the week.
Now he faces the ultimate test. He promises his biggest grocery client the all but impossible. A brilliant TV ad made in a day and on air that same night.
We needed to find our own artist that could actually get out there and project the voice of Australia, project the image of Australia, project the products out of Australia. So yeah, he was the cutting edge of it.
Singleton's ads are radical and fresh, but they often draw on a strain of the Australian character more than 100 years old, the larrikin.
I think the larrikin arose historically because most of us had working class roots. So any chance to cock a snoot, as it used to be called, at the upper classes was seized upon, and the larrikin became something of a national hero.
Bushrangers, sportsmen, adventurers express the Aussie larrikin spirit. John Singleton's grocery client, David Holdings, is waging a price war in Australian supermarkets. They're selling margarine and other staples at bargain rates. Singo takes his client's brief, books the TV time, and heads to the studio to shoot the ad. The only problem is he hasn't come up with an idea, and he's running out of time. If it's to work, the ad must speak to Australians in the expanding suburbs at the edges of cities. As the baby boomers come of age and Australian cities spread, they develop a distinctive suburban way of life. A new confidence and pride based on old ideals.
Being Australian, very difficult to define, but part of it is pride in the land, pride in the people, but very strongly a sense of egalitarianism of you may be richer than me, you may be better educated than me, you may drive a faster car than me, but you're no better than me, mate.
Singo grows up in Sydney's western suburbs. He drops out of university and starts in the mailroom of ad agency J. Walter Thompson. By his early 30s, he's a partner in his own firm, Spasm. His work speaks to average Australians, not down to them.
Oh, darling, there you are. You've caught me in the middle of all my cleaning.
I think Singo was really clever because by harnessing the Australian voice, it resonated more in lounge rooms when he was advertising a product because we went, oh, it's different.
It's Australian, like me.
I still remember a lot of those ads.
You've redecorated.
Sure, they were catchy, but for me the difference was that I was hearing an Australian voice.
Jack's the Ripper Diamond with the wonderful deals. Jack's the Ripper Diamond with the deals.
Singo's just got hours left to deliver on his promise of an ad in a day. His client wants to advertise margarine for 65 cents a tub. Close to deadline, Singo remembers his first reaction to such a bargain price for Marge. Where do you get it? And that's his ad.
Where do you get it? Pixie Bell margarine.
Simple, ochre, direct. The client's products fly off supermarket shelves.
Where do you get it?
Singo's hit Ad in a Day becomes part of advertising folklore.
Hello?
From the late 1970s, larrikin characters erupt into Australian living rooms.
You little beauty.
Anything to declare?
And not just in ads.
Well, don't tell me you're going to make something out of that.
Got the trot, ready to go. They'll be here in 15 minutes.
Larrikin John Singleton goes from strength to strength. He branches out from advertising to football, radio, pubs and racing.
While the Liberals fumble, factories like...
He will have a hand in some of Australia's most iconic ads for decades to come. May 1985, New York City. Paul Hogan, former bridge painter, TV comedian. He's making a film that Australia's best directors believe is a dud. but Hogan reckons will change the way the world sees Australia. Hogan's characters and humour are born in the Australian suburbs of the 1970s.
You look back at the 70s and you cringe a little bit. I mean, this is the time when Aussies would take an esky each to the cricket, you know. We were going hard. We were drinking a hell of a lot. We were, you know, out in our stubbies, shirts off in the sun, moustaches. Sexism was rampant.
The Paul Hogan Show makes the nation laugh at itself. Its characters ring true.
Hi, mate.
Yeah,
mate. Got the trot, ready to go. They'll be here in 15 minutes.
The hit show runs for 11 years.
Oh, g'day, girls. Oh, no, we were just...
No.
Oh, he's just explaining. I just wanted to show him a dance.
It's only on a 7-day trial. I'm sitting in the back.
America? You look like you need a holiday.
Hogan appears in advertisements made to entice American tourists to Australia.
G'day, love.
His face becomes well known in the US.
Come and say g'day. I'll slip an extra shrimp on the barbie for you.
Now he wants to create and star in an Australian movie that's also a blockbuster around the world. Something no one has ever done before. He's not the only Australian artist looking for a global audience. In 1984, In Excess is on its way to becoming the biggest band in the world. Australian cult films are attracting international attention. And Aussie soaps are invading UK TV.
What don't we have around here, Alf?
We don't have most things.
The early 80s were, you know, was Australia in its prime, wasn't it? You know, it was like a 23-year-old, I reckon. You know, it went out into the world and found that the world loved it, and it found its confidence because of that.
But an Australian story has never become a blockbuster around the world. For his movie, Hogan looks to the Northern Territory outback. Amongst the crocodiles, he seeks an authentic Australian character that the world might love. Inspired by real people and true stories, Hogan creates Crocodile Dundee. Australia's leading movie directors turn it down. So Hogan gets his TV sketch comedy director mate Peter Feynman on board. Australia's government film agencies fund culture. So Hogan's TV producer mate John Cornell signs on over 500 private investors. In 10 years, he's gone from the battler on the bridge to national TV icon to going head-to-head with Hollywood's best. Crocodile Dundee comes out in April 1986. Hogan's reputation, his own and investors' money are on the line.
Nick, give him your wallet.
What for?
He's got a knife.
That's not a knife. That's a knife.
In the US, it takes $174 million. It's the most popular film on Earth in 1986. The world falls in love with Hogan's Aussie larrikin.
I think growing up in this amazing country, we've all been larrikins at one stage and done stuff that's been quite cheeky. I think it really did come into one character when we saw Mick Dundee. And some of the things he'd say were just so typically Australian that it was hard not to love and relate to his character.
What Crocodile Dundee did was suggest that you could make it in America with an Australian story. So I suppose it emboldened people, it emboldened investors, writers, producers, directors, say, you know, you can give it a crack and it might work over there.
Crocodile Dundee remains by far the most successful Australian film of all time. And around the world, no one looks at Australia in quite the same way.
There was a big difference pre those films, travelling overseas and saying, I'm an Aussie, and people going, oh, well, what's it like in Australia? After those films were made, people knew something about Australia, and the normal response was, oh, you know, that's where Crocodile Dundee is.
2 beers, all right? 1 for me, 1 for me mate.
How does this feel, Rod? Is that good?
August 1, 1978, Melbourne.
Comfortable?
Graham Clark, surgeon, scientist. He believes he can build the world's first bionic ear and make the deaf hear.
Yeah, check around the back.
Rod Saunders lost all hearing in a car accident 18 months ago.
Back to the first frequency.
Clark's been working on a bionic ear for 12 years. He's spent millions of donors' money. Until now, he's never tested it on a human. He gambles his career on making Rod hear again.
Anything?
And the world's leading audiologists think he's mad.
It's a huge amount of pressure that people have when they're doing something that's outside the norm, that goes against the teachings of the time and that swims against the tide. And Graham Clark did that for years.
Clark plans to become the first person to wire a microphone to a human brain through the tiny, delicate mechanisms of the ear. In normal hearing, sound waves hit the eardrum, and its movement makes tiny bones in the inner ear vibrate. These vibrations shake a part of the ear called the cochlea. Here, microscopic hairs generate electrical signals that travel to the brain, where they're interpreted as sound. In most deaf people, the ear fails to send signals to the brain. Clark believes he can recreate those signals by implanting a bionic ear. But one challenge still defeats him: how to insert electrodes into the cochlea.
The big problem with operating in the cochlea is that you've got a very small distance and you've got to get the wire to exactly the right spot and not damage what little hearing is left, and then have it work reliably for months and years.
As a child, Graham Clark dreamt of becoming a doctor and making great scientific discoveries. His own father is deaf, a fact that drives him on in the face of failure and criticism.
He was unafraid. He wasn't intimidated by the detractors. He had a conviction that what he was doing had merit, and certainly, you know, with his own father being deaf, he was driven to try and change the lives of people so affected.
The pressure is relentless. His funding is under threat. Clark decides to get away. But the problem of how to place electrodes in the cochlea never leaves his mind. And then, enjoying the beach like millions of other Australians, Eureka.
I was playing around with a shell like the inner ear and putting in bits of grass blades, and realised that if they were bendable at the tip and stiff towards the base, they would actually go around far enough.
Kids, come here.
At last, Clark can see a way he might wire the cochlea for sound.
One thing I love about his discovery is that it's so Australian. He did it at the beach. No other country on earth would they make the discovery at the beach.
All right, Felix, thank you.
Using the seashell technique, Clark has carefully threaded the soft electrodes into Rod's cochlea. The operation took 8 hours.
How does that feel, Rod? Good?
Clark plans to use a microphone to convert sound directly to electrical signals. Then send them down wires to the cochlea and onto the brain, where they can be decoded as sounds.
Okay, Margaret, what we're going to do, got to run some tests. This will transmit sound to the box, which will then show as a waveform on the screen, and hopefully Rod will hear it.
First, Clark sends a tone to Rod's cochlea.
Anything? No? Okay.
But Rod hears nothing.
Let's go again.
Desperate, Clark's team recheck their equipment.
Hang on, it's here.
What? What is it? What is it?
They find a loose connection. For the third time, Clark begins the test.
Okay. Yes?
I heard it.
Yeah? Yeah. That's... Yes. That's good news. Let's put some... Here, give us a tape.
It's an extraordinary result. But can Rod hear complex sounds, like a human voice?
There once was a jolly swag man camped by a billabong under the shade of a coolabah tree.
And he sang while he watched and waited till his billy boiled. You'll come waltzing Matilda with me. Waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda.
When he heard speech, I knew that all our hard work had been successful. It was one of the most wonderful experiences of my life.
For Graham Clark, a boyhood dream becomes a reality. But his work has only just begun. In 1982, Clark and his team at the University of Melbourne refined the cochlear implant to a portable bionic ear. In Australia and then the world, people hear for the first time.
Hey, BJ.
Thanks to Graham Clark's inspiration and his persistence.
When you look at our contribution in medicine, in so many areas of research, we bat way above our average here, and Graham Clark, I think, is just a wonderful example of that. A humble man. That's what I love about Australian brilliance. It's not arrogant, it's not self-congratulatory, but it's still brilliance.
Graham Clark is part of a wave of Australian breakthroughs that will have a global impact and change the way Australians see themselves. For now, the lucky country keeps on giving.
We are some of the most fortunate people on this earth. And the reason we are so well off is because of so many risk takers, our forefathers who have developed businesses, our farmers, our miners. Everything's made this country just so fantastically successful.
Australians embrace new ideas and technologies and create their own.
Australia has made many great innovations over history. Roughly 80% of all of our wealth comes from science and technology.
Australians continue to fight for their values and interests.
And when the fight's on, we fight with a tenacity and a passion that is unmatched.
Australians still battle a land of fire and flood, drought and storm.
When it's tested, I think that's when our robust resilience comes to the forefront. I do think that's when we're at our best.
From Earth's most enduring cultures to the extraordinary experiment of the convict colonies to the diverse, globally networked nation that Australia is today, its story is still being written.